Ever since I was 7 years old, I knew the calling on my life was to be a songwriter. I didn't know when it was going to happen. I didn't know how to do it or how it was going to happen. I didn't know what to do or how to get started. But since 7 years old, I knew that this was my life's mission. I think about this thought often because I really sit and I'm just like, I really made it happen. Like it really happened how I thought it would happen as I grew and I developed, because at 7, you don't really know. You just like, this is what I want to do. Obviously, I had other dreams and aspirations as well that I was able to fulfill, but this one was the one for me. This brings me to what we're going to be talking about today. Welcome if you're new. Welcome back if you are returning. My name is Nayim Edwards, and I hope y'all didn't think that we were going to float through February without a Black History special. Come on, like, I feel like you know something about me by now. Today we got to talk about how important the Black songwriter and the Black musician was to the civil rights movement. And it's not just one specific musician. It was a lot of musicians. And it's a lot of stuff that people don't ever consider or ever talk about when they talk about the civil rights movement and how it even came to be. We're going to be talking about Aretha Franklin today specifically because I can go, you know me, I can go all night and we can do everybody else and everybody got their part. And, you know, throughout the rest of the month, we're going to drop other people's episodes as well. But let's start at the beginning. Black music is the driver of the world, point blank, period. It was even harder back when people were fighting for the right to just be considered human, fighting for the right to vote, fighting for the right to go and live and do whatever they want to, fight for the right to do, let me grab this water, do whatever they wanted to do, right? A lot of our musicians back then, and I'm going to say that Aretha Franklin, Sam Cooke, Madam C.J. Walker era, a lot of them were independent, or if they were signed to a label, it wasn't, big type of, it wasn't like what it is today where there was 360 deals and it was all of this stuff. When you were signed back then, all of your money came from Black people. All of your money came from Black people on the street. All of your money came from Black people wherever you lived at, because there was a time where we were all mixed in and put together. The trapper would live next door to a doctor that would live next door to Aretha Franklin. None of those people looked at themselves any different. The scholar lived next door to somebody who worked at Burger King, who lived next door to a brain surgeon, because you didn't have the freedom to live or do or be around anybody or anything that wasn't your people and your group. So it forced everybody at this one specific era in time to, hey, we got to all live together. We need to work together so we can, make where we live better. It wasn't just one Black Wall Street. And I might sound like I'm all over the place, but follow me. There wasn't just one place like Black Wall Street or anything like that. There was plenty of them, because when you put everybody together, there were people who were brain trusts around who were like, we can make the best out of what we got going on. We don't have to live with these people. We don't have to deal with all of this. We're going to make the best out of what we got going on over here. And this is for us. And when we go to other places like Atlanta or North Carolina or Oklahoma or California or New York or wherever people go, in Florida and all over the place, they're going to be welcomed with open arms, because we got our own restaurants, we got our own taxis, we got our own buses, we got our own everything, right? That is why everybody was all jumbled together. You wasn't allowed to go and perform at white clubs. You wasn't allowed to go and perform at white venues. If you was, it was somebody white bringing you there, like Frank Sinatra or something like that in the Rat Pack, if you know anything about like Sammy Davis and all of that. This brings me to, how did the civil rights movement get funded? The civil rights movement was funded by songwriters and musicians and professionals who were able to put up as much money as they could, right? Like, let's just say doctors and lawyers and people like that. It wasn't as many, it was a lot of them. Preachers, what's the other job? Doctors, lawyers, preachers, people who own businesses, stuff like that, right? But more importantly, or maybe not more importantly, that was a very poor thing to say, but the musicians were able to do more as far as funding the civil rights movement. What's funding the civil rights movement? How did you think people ate when they got to these places? How do you think people got to these places on transportation? None of this stuff is free. Logistically, none of it is free. We can't just say, oh, we're going to do this. People was getting their salaries paid from missing work. Their children was able to eat because they knew they was going to be missing work to go down and do something righteous. They knew they was going to be missing our own money from trying to go and fight for freedom. People like Aretha Franklin stepped in. People like Sam Cooke stepped in. Even, I've said this before, but people like Madam C.J. Walker took their money from their businesses and they put their money up and say, what do black people need to get to the point where they can come out and protest? And I'm going to say this part, and then we're going to get into Aretha Franklin and Angela Davis. The thing about protesting and all of that stuff, it's not how it used to be. Because now everybody expects everybody to go and put themselves on the front line. The thing is, everybody can't be a soldier. Everybody can't be the person who comes out and stands in front and takes bullets and takes arrows and takes abuse. There has to be somebody funding it because you can't win a war without money. Point blank, period. Those people who was out there fighting, standing on the front line, like we can even say people like Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King was middle class, but Martin Luther King didn't have Sam Cooke money. Martin Luther King didn't have Aretha Franklin money. There's even a quote in here where Aretha Franklin talks about how she wanted to do, she didn't want to see no black women in jail, point blank, period. Black people put money in her pocket, but we're going to get to that. Black people put money in her pocket, so she was going to get black people out of jail. She's not the only one who did that. But what I'm saying is, there's a place for people who is just going to pump money into the war. I'm going to fund the war. I'm going to give you whatever you need, whatever resources you need, whatever you need. We're not going to see nobody hungry. We're not going to see nobody hurt. We're not going to see nobody down. Anything anybody need, we will fund it. Do not worry about it. And then there are soldiers. There's other parts, but during the civil rights movement in this era, there was musicians, because most of them was the people taking their money because they own their music, they own their masters, they own their publisher. And this is why they hated Aretha Franklin so much, despite what anybody ever say, oh, Queen of Soul, Queen of this. They hated her just like they hated Malcolm X, just like they hated Martin Luther King, just like they hated Stokely Carmichael, just like they hated the Black Panthers. And now let's just slide into what I'm talking about today. Aretha Franklin was under FBI investigation because she offered to bail out Angela Davis from jail. Angela Davis, a part of the Black Panthers. And just to let you know, this is just one of the biggest cases of Black Panthers getting bailed out or people coming to fund the Black Panthers. Black Panthers wasn't just people from the street toting guns, looking around, blah, 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 whatever you want to add, right? It wasn't just that. It was people with affluence, people with money, people whatever, getting black people what they needed, no matter what society called them, a gang, a group, a militia, whatever you want to call it, right? Black songwriters took their money and gave it to them, took their money and their resources and gave it to them so they can be the foot soldiers who march on the streets for all of us. Because how much can just Aretha Franklin do aside from, you know, I can give you the money and I can speak out? Because make no mistake about it, she gave them money. And not only did she give them money, but other people was doing the same type of thing. Other people was using their voices as well. Like, I'm going to front the bill and I'm going to use my voice to speak out, because not that she would have done anything any other way, because that's the time she came up in, but this is what the musicians did. This is why I don't take no bullshit when people try to come at regular people, like musicians trying to come at regular people, or people trying to come at people from the streets. Because as a songwriter, I have a very intricate understanding that at one point in time, we were all the same, and there's going to come a time where we're all the same again. They don't look at you no different than they look at me. It don't matter what I've done. It don't matter what I've accomplished. It doesn't matter what I go on to do. They will look at me no different than they look at a trapper, no different than they look at a black lawyer, no different than they look at a brain surgeon. But let's talk Aretha Franklin. So, we know Aretha Franklin died a fucking legend, owing the IRS plenty money. That's how you supposed to go out, right? She offered to pay Angela Davis's bail, and she said she didn't care if it cost $100,000 or $250,000, because she wants black people to be free. And that's how everybody was coming. She wasn't just, they tried to say she was a communist and all of this, and why would you want to blah, blah, blah. So there's a quote, and it says, Angela Davis must go free. Black people will be free. I've been locked up for disturbing the peace in Detroit, and I know you got to disturb the peace when you can't get no peace. Jail is hell to be in. I'm going to see her free if there's any justice in our courts. Not because I believe in communism, but because she's a black woman and she wants freedom for black people. This is how people was coming. She came on to say, I have the money. I got it from black people. They've made me financially able to have it, and I want to use it in ways that will help our people. This is how all of our musicians was coming back then. Not this bullshit, watered down, scared of the white man, Amiri jeans, and we got an Amiri episode probably coming tomorrow. If not tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. I'm not going to forget it. The thing is, this is what drove the civil rights movement. This right here. This kind of attitude, this type of gesture from the songwriters and the musicians. People, they go instrumental in these kind of things because it's not popular. People hate entertainers now. People think you're supposed to just dance and sing a jig and all of that stuff, right? But back then, it was just a totally different atmosphere, a totally different landscape. Everybody was on that. We need our shit together. We got to have our shit together now. They took care of us. And this is why over here, I'm at that point where I already picked my side. I'm at that point where I already know I already knew anyway, but where my loyalties lie, because I can trust my people before I can trust some other bullshit. That's not hate speech. That's not a jab towards anybody else. It's just, that's how everybody else is doing it. Why the hell can't I do it the way I want to do it? And I'd rather do it this way because I know the people that put me in position to even be able to get myself to a point where I can fulfill that dream that I had ever since I was 7 to become a songwriter. Aretha Franklin was not bullshitting. Sam Cooke was not bullshitting. Marvin Gaye was not bullshitting. And we're going to do Marvin Gaye too, because he got a whole lot of lyrics. There's a whole lot of songs that came out during the civil rights movement and the civil rights era. Since we talk about Aretha Franklin, that Respect song, she got all type of songs. I ain't right heard on the list. I had a sinus infection. But, there was a newspaper article and everything. I just wanted to say this because it's just something that goes instrumental when we're talking about the civil rights movement and how musicians just had a different mindset back then. People was more, and I guess it's just because we was just forced to be together. We was just forced to all live in the pot together. So it wasn't no, I hate the word judgment, but it wasn't no bullshit. It couldn't have been no bullshit because niggas is really, is it really any different today? People just dying on the street, toe up, But I guess the only difference is we have some people who are successful, some people who are achieving stuff. So they'll look at it as like, oh, they're achieving, they're successful. Why can't you be whatever? And maybe it's because they ain't got no water hose or no dog sick on them today. And that's just my version of a Black History special for today. We'll probably come back in like 2 or 3 days and drop another one. But yeah, thank y'all for tuning in. If you made it this far, I appreciate it. My name is Nayim. I will holler at you.